Okay, so who am I? What's my story? What's my background? Like, where did I come from? I am from New York and Florida. I don't really like to mention the Florida part, but I did spend a lot of my life there, not by choice. I was born in upstate New York, grew up in Florida, South Florida, and also lived in Orlando for a while because I went to college there. I studied psychology in college because people didn't make sense to me before that. I was just so confused about why people did what they did. I just needed to answer that question. I would escape my reality by watching movies and TV. That helped me feel like there was something else out there. It gave me hope. I never thought that I would be living this dream. Like when I first started, or even when I was a kid. No, when I first started, it's because I believed in myself. But when I was a kid, I would have never, ever, ever guessed because I just didn't know that it was a thing that was possible for somebody that lived outside of Hollywood. I didn't know that I wanted to be an actress until halfway through college. So I picked up a minor in theater because that's what my guidance counselor told me to do. And turns out I'm definitely more of a film girl than theater. I'm not a theater kid, but I became friends with the theater kids and did improv with them. So I learned improv and still in touch with some of those people, which is really insane. It's like 13 years later now. Even the teacher, because he was 3 years older than me. So we were essentially the same age and we just all became friends. And people are successful. Like one person that was in our class ended up on Broadway, so that's awesome. And some of them are stand-up comics, and one of them is a producer at Paramount, so that's amazing. And one of them is an influencer slash content creator, which is cool. Like he's really successful with it, so that's awesome. And I'm doing my thing, acting, casting, and all this stuff. There's more people, and I think they're doing great. So that's good. And that's just a few of us. So I'm really happy to say that we're doing well. So after college, I went to New York City for a month just to see what life was like outside of Florida. And it just immediately confirmed that I want to essentially be a city girl and an actress. And I also decided really quickly that I want to do film acting. I'm more of a film girl than a theater girl, but it was really fun. It was really great to explore that lifestyle. And I ended up going back there at some point for 2 years in my late 20s. But I actually did get into acting in Orlando and I worked for Universal Studios in the parade. And I worked at Disney too. People thought I was Snow White, but I was a waitress. Same thing. But working at the parade at Universal, I was able to meet my community of actors and I started acting class for film and it was life-changing because I in school there's certain things that were easy for me, but for the most part school was just not the easiest. It was new for me to be in a class, like a classroom setting, and learning something and feeling like I was at the top of my class in that I got it. Like the teacher's teaching stuff, and I'm like, yes, that makes sense. I got it. And it was interesting. Stuff I used to learn in regular school was just less interesting to me, I guess. So it was just a really amazing experience to feel smart and be interested in what I was learning and feel like I was doing a good job. I would audition for student films. Some I didn't get, and then others I got. And it was such a cool feeling. I remember this feeling of auditioning for a student film and I got it. And the the director thought I did a great job and I just it was this really cool feeling like I'm doing it. I'm doing this. I can do this. So I was in a few student films in Orlando and things were going well, but money was my main issue, I would say. And I'll just also just feeling like certain aspects of my life weren't aligned and just trying to find myself. But I knew acting was it, but nothing else in my life made sense. And I was a pretty insecure person. I was also a pretty unhappy person. I embarked on this self-development journey that lasted like 10 years. Oh, wow. I never thought that it would last that long. I thought I would just figure it all out. It was exhausting on many levels. I moved around a bunch. I was in Orlando, I was in New York City, I was in LA. I moved to LA for the first time at the end of 2014. I was naive and I thought that I'm an actress, I'm going to be an actress, I'm going to move to LA. People say it's hard, but I'm meant to do this, so it's not going to be hard for me. It's somehow just it's going to work out. So it did, like 10 years later. I remember going to this party. I was brand new to LA, like my first week here. And someone said, "So, what do you do?" And I said, "I'm an actress." And they're like, "Cool. And what else do you do?" I'm like, "What do you mean?" And they're like, "Good luck." Like you can't just be an actress. So that's when I learned that I'll have to write my own scripts and make my own projects. I had no idea. I moved to LA. I was in my mid-20s and I had no idea that I would have to make my own stuff. So I started doing that, found some friends and made some stuff and money. Like every time I left somewhere or moved away, maybe not every time, but it was a common theme in my 20s. So I was in LA for a year and a half the first time and ran out of money. So I moved home to Florida, moved in with my mom at age 26. That was fun. And I went to beauty school because I felt like I needed a backup plan or something to fall back on. My classmates were essentially high school students, like maybe they were like 18 or something, and I was 26. And I'm already mature for my age, so it was challenging for me, but I learned a lot and learned how to do hair, got licensed. I actually, it's cosmetology school, so I learned hair, skin, nails, makeup. And while I was in beauty school, one of my teachers said that she's a Reiki master and asked if any of us want to get certified in Reiki. I had never heard of it. When she told us what it was, like energy healing, I'm like, yes, this sounds cool. So I did that. And yeah, so I learned hair and Reiki at the same time, which have sort of been not my backup plans, but they've been in the background for the past 8 years. So now I'm in Florida, working in a salon, and it's Florida. I can only last so long. So my brother essentially invited me to move up to New York City. That's when I was there for 2 years. And I was doing hair. And I also worked in a restaurant and I was making decent money. I thought it was weird. I was like, I was actually surviving in New York, and they say if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere. So I was like, all right, have some confidence now. Cool. And I was getting into spirituality, and I just had this very strong instinct out of nowhere that I had to move back to LA, like out of nowhere. Like I was living in New York City. I don't know about thriving. Like I still wasn't feeling happy, but life was working, and out of nowhere, it was like it was a strong instinct. Like I was like arguing with my intuition. Like, "Are you sure? Can I wait? Can I save up some money and like be ready?" And it was like, "Nope." Well, this was the beginning of 2020, so I listened to it and I moved to LA, back to LA this second time, and it was March 1st, 2020. So I was like, "All right, I'm here, I'm back. Like, what am I here for?" Like, I felt like I must have come here for a reason. And then obviously the pandemic happened a few days later. It didn't really go the way I thought it would. But I met a boy and I had my first boyfriend, so that was very significant. That was for like about 2 years-ish. And the relationship didn't work out, but I gained a lot of confidence just as a person because I mean, I was 30 before I had my first relationship. So there's life before that, and then there's life after that. Like, it's hard to explain the confidence that that can do for a person and how needed that was. And obviously, I'm grateful for it, but the relationship wasn't meant to be. So then I was living in LA, just post pandemic, like very fresh post pandemic, fresh from a breakup. And I actually was asked to be a guest on the Kelly Clarkson show to talk about my breakup. Like, I'm being interviewed by Kelly Clarkson. There's video footage. This is real. This exists. Also, I was working in real estate at the time, not as a real estate agent, but as an assistant, and I was learning about that. And that also wasn't the right match. but I learned a lot and I realized how important real estate is. So I want to invest in real estate one day. That's one of my long-term goals. And something I'll be talking about on the podcast is ways to sustain yourself, ways to have passive income, and just be able to have this life as a creative and different creative ways that you could go about supporting yourself. And real estate is a really good idea if and when you can get into it. A lot of us who are just starting out, maybe this isn't the time, but it's there as something to aspire to because it's the answer. It's one of the answers. So then I got into tarot and astrology, which is pretty parallel to Reiki and the spiritual stuff that I was already into. But my approach is I take everything with a grain of salt. I mess with this stuff because from my experience it works. And like I don't just believe it inherently. I'm not like that. Like let me put it this way. If I find out someone's a Leo, I'm not going to be like, "Oh yeah, they did that because they're Leo." I would be like, "Oh, they're Leo. Okay, that explains that." So hopefully you get the difference because it's a totally different approach. It's a different interpretation. Instead of living my whole life based on whether or not it's Mercury retrograde, as an example, instead I'm like, okay, that explains what's been going on. Or if I know that it's coming up, I can mentally prepare myself. Like, okay, this is going to be an interesting week, but it's not that I'm manifesting it, it's that I'm accepting that this is a possibility and that I'm going to be okay. And then my grandma passed away. And what I tell people is I wasn't close with her, but my mom was, and I'm close with my mom. So I needed to be there for her. She had a lot of things, and sometimes you'll notice if, let's say, you say, "Oh, I like your shirt" or something. Most of the time, I'll probably say, "Oh, it was my grandma's." So, like this shirt, guess whose? It's my grandma's shirt. Like a lot of my clothes are my grandma's and even my accessories and stuff because she had a lot and I had been a struggling actor for many years. Yeah, like a decade. And I couldn't just go shopping. So free wardrobe, yeah. And also like vintage nice things. Some of the things are my mom's too from like the 70s or whatever. Like, sure, yeah, I'll take free clothes that are really good quality and really interesting styles that I could totally pull off. So moved to Connecticut to spend time with my mom because half my family moved to Connecticut from Florida and New York. I was there for maybe 10 months, 8 months, I don't know. Not a full year, but close to it. And it was a really interesting time. I didn't know how long I'd be there, but I tested out the lifestyle. I was able to spend a lot of time with family, which was nice. I went to Europe with my mom, so that was cool. And we saw some Broadway plays together because we were near New York. And then my mom broke her ankle. So then I became her full-time caregiver totally unexpectedly. And I wasn't thrilled about it. I mean, I was like happy that I was there for her because I don't know what she would have done if I wasn't there. So I'm grateful that I was there for her, but it was not fun. And as soon as she was feeling better, I started traveling again. Visited Orlando to see my old friends with their mini me's because they all have children now. So that was really fun to see. And then I just randomly got this super cheap flight to LA, which I wasn't even planning on coming back to LA anytime soon. And I got here and I was like, oh my God, I miss it. Okay. This is home. This is where I need to be. And I was here for 2.5 weeks and I had an entire life. It was so weird. I had friends. That part's not weird, but I had I had gigs, like multiple gigs. I made like $1,500, which at the time that was a lot of money for me. So I was here for 2.5 weeks and I had friends, I had gigs, a place to stay every night for 2.5 weeks, like a free place to stay because my friends were so gracious and generous and kind. And I had pets because I was pet sitting for some of them. And I went on dates because of the apps. And I just had an entire life here for 2.5 weeks. And I was like, this is home. Oh my God, I have to come back here. And I had no idea how that was going to happen. Well, on that trip, I got into casting. I can't tell you how many opportunities came to me within the past year that were from people that I had known from my past that reached out and offered me opportunities, casting, acting. My lead role in a feature film, my very first one, was from somebody that I had known for 15 years that was a filmmaker and just reached out to me and asked if I wanted to be in a film. And then casting, just somebody offering that to me, and then somebody else who knew somebody to connect me with to get into that, and it's truly amazing what can happen when you have a community. For 10 years, I felt like I wasn't accomplishing anything. I felt like a failure. But what I was doing in that time that I didn't even realize was I was building relationships with people. I was building community and learning how it works. I was learning what to do, what not to do. I'm just so grateful because so much of my success now is based on things that happened in the past that I would have never guessed would actually lead to anything. And that's the best part is at the time I wasn't meeting people in order to try to have something happen in the future. I was just making friends or talking to people or being on film sets or whatever it was. It just all came together within the same year, which is another reason that I'm spiritual and I believe in fate and destiny because I mean, what are the chances that it all was happening at the same time and opportunities coming from left and right from totally unrelated sources? So to me, that's not a coincidence. This is my time. So follow my journey, follow me on social media, listen to my podcast, watch my videos, and of course watch my films and hire me. That way I can keep inspiring more people because I've had a lot of people reach out to me that I hadn't talked to in a long time, and they're just following my Facebook or my Instagram, and they've told me how much I've inspired them, and they just love my story about how I never gave up, and man, I mean, it wasn't looking good, like, I was living at home in my early 30s, single, broke, depressed. I felt like I had nothing to show for my life, and then things just started coming together because I never lost faith. I didn't know how it was gonna happen, but I knew it was gonna happen, and then it did, and it is, and it still is, and it will continue to do so, and I'm just really excited to continue this journey, and I want you to come with me and be a part of it. So subscribe to my stuff and follow along. And I've become a creative energy coach so I can show you how to do it too. And I'm always available for Reiki and tarot and coaching and acting and casting. Woo, shameless promotion. Sometimes we got to do it and sometimes it works. Anyway, I hope that this was as fun for you as it was for me, and I will see you on the next one.